Morning, YouTube. Well, today I'm on the site of the Alamance Battlefield, which was the end of the Regulator War in 1771. Now, some have said that it was the first battle of the American Revolution. They don't claim that to be true, but if it wasn't the first, it was definitely one of the very early ones. The cabin behind me is typical to what was in the area at that time. This is not original to the site. This was built years later, probably around 1780, and was moved to the site in the 1960s. It was owned by John Allen, and the connection to the site is that his sister Amy was married to Herman husband, who was one of the leaders, or thought to be one of the leaders of the Regulators. So let's take a look around, shall we? Well, the Regulators were backcountry, away from the main colony on the coast, and they didn't really have a quarrel with the system of government or the body of laws. They really had a problem with the excess taxes put on them, the fact that they were poor. They didn't have a lot of money. They had, things that they grew and made, but the corrupt sheriffs and government officials were basically bleeding them dry. If you take a man's horse, you can't plow his field. So when Governor Tyrone was encouraged by his council to make a stand and come up here and give him what for. He collected 1,100 militia. Now, there were no, the redcoat government troops in that time, in this area anyway, but so he brought in the militia. The Regulators, a lot of them had trained as militiamen too. So they were pretty evenly matched, other than the fact that the governor's troops were back here by the visitor center. The Regulators were camped on the hill around here behind me, and they had about 2,000 Regulators. So almost 2 to 1, similar training. But when they came onto the field, the governor told his men to fire, and they hesitated. And his famous words were, fire on them or fire on me, at which point there is some evidence that some of the more local militia guys that were with the governor sort of backed off. Others fired, and the Regulators fired back. It was a 2-hour battle, and not sure how many of the Regulators were killed. There wasn't really any kept records of that. Were captured, wounded. So let's move across the road here. Now, after the battle, Governor Tyrone went through the area basically as show of force. He did have 12 Regulators arrested. They were convicted or condemned at a trial, and of those, 6 were hung as traitors. This all happened in Hillsborough, North Carolina, on June 19th, 1771. One thing I should mention is that a few years after this, Governor Tyrone was given a promotion. He became the governor of New York. And I don't think he learned his lesson down here. But so the battle here at Alamance with the Regulators took place on May 16th, 1771. About 10 years later, some of the General Greene's troops that fought at the Guilford Courthouse battle passed through here. There was just records that somebody had written down that they'd stopped at the old Alamance Battleground until in the early 90s. Archaeological survey of the place found a button from one of the militia from Maryland. So there definitely was a connection. But almost 100 years later, during the Civil War, on April 15th, which would have been 6 days after Lee's surrender at Appomattox, a part of the Confederate Army under William J. Hardee had his troops bivouacked here in the mud. It had been raining, and they had only heard rumors that Lee had surrendered, but because this was one of the major highways at the time, some of the Lee's troops that were on parole came through and were able to confirm it. So this area, this field, and the surrounding area has connections to not only the before the Revolution, during the Revolution, and during the Civil War. So that's enough for today. See you later, YouTube. I don't know where I'm going next. Bye.